stripe. Sound stripe.
Welcome in to the NFL Week 4 preview show with Uncle Phil and Smooth Andy. Thanks everyone for joining us this evening. Smooth Andy, Uncle Phil, big week for you guys last weekend in Vegas. So excited to come back and hear what you guys have to say about last week and keep going after these games because you guys are seeing things really well.
Yeah, really love being in Vegas, and certainly it would have been hard for Andy and I to have a better weekend than we did. Andy, what's your reflections on your time in Vegas?
No, it was fun as usual. I kind of wish I'd done better on college. I went, I think, 4-4 on college, so that was kind of a kiss your sister weekend. But yeah, we killed it on pro, so made up for it by a bunch.
What did you end up going in pro? Ridiculous number, right?
It's it depends on whether you're talking units or bets. The bets I put up, I think I went like 8-4. I think I went 4-4 on the point spread bets, and I went 4-0 on the money line bets, and that's what really made everything hit. So, I beg your pardon. It was 4-2 on the spread bets and 4-4 and 4-0 on the money line bets. So yeah, it was a big day.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Big day for all of us. College, I went 8-4, and then on pro, I went 7-2. So all was a good day. So, yep, Matt, you'll have to join us next time.
I'll be there. Just kind of replicate what you guys did last weekend when I'm out there.
No doubt.
Well, I won't say no doubt, but we'll try, Matt. We'll try.
Well, we're seeing things pretty well. Well, as we get into the show, look, there's some things I typically start with, kind of some, superlatives, what I like to call them, of things that I thought were interesting that I caught my attention. And you and I don't talk beforehand, so it's always good to get your instant reaction to this. I always enjoy this, Smooth. So far, through the first 3 weeks of the NFL, favorites of 5 points or more are 4-14 against the spread. What did is this? What do you think about that? Do you think that'll continue, or you think that's just kind of a, hey, it's a stat that everybody's going to know right now, and then Vegas wants you to know it, and then like everything, they're going to go the other side of the boat and just crush the public on the favorites next. What do you think?
I don't even really think Vegas does that exactly. I just think they're going to keep pricing it where they think it should be. And, if you flip a coin, 14 times, what was it, 4-14 or 4-10?
4-14.
Okay, so you flip a coin 18 times, you could get 4 heads and 14 tails. It can happen. Right. I'm not saying that it's all chance, but I don't expect that kind of disparity to continue. I think it's generally going to reach the mean or the median, or if for some reason this year is just a crazy dog year, which would be great for me because I love that. The next year will be a crazy favorite year, and I'll get cleaned out. So I don't believe in it in the abstract, but it's possible that the argument might be made that when some of the more public bettors see a big favorite, they just can't help themselves. That maybe that's part of it, but. I don't recall a lot of them just barely failing to cover.
Pretty clear and obvious, right?
And they win by 6 or 5 or 4. They're getting beat.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of betting on dogs, but I want to be wary of paying too much attention to the noise and not the signal. So I'm going to cross my fingers it keeps going, but I'm not counting on it being anything like this the whole year.
Yeah. I mean, let's move on. The second thing is that, look, I think it's something that that was interesting that we talked about last time and I made my 4 favorites for the MVP race. Wanted to see if one of these stuck out to you right now, or if you had somebody on here that I did not mention. I've got Sam Darnold, the 3-0 Minnesota Vikings. I've got Josh Allen, who's just looked freaking amazing. 3-0 Buffalo Bills. A name that I didn't think I would have on here, but he is looking spectacular right now, and that's after last night's performance, but also not just last night's, but the first 2 weeks as well. Jaden Daniels, of your Washington Commanders. So you can come out of hiding now. You've been in hiding as a Commanders fan for a while, and it's after last night's display, you got to feel good about your Commanders, the direction of them. Looks like Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels are a match made in heaven. Dan Quinn, obviously, is a defensive coach, but it's not a defensive culture. Like where you had Belichick, who's like, hey, my way, offensive players got to take a pay cut type thing. It's not that way. Dan Quinn is more like Dan Campbell. He's a great culture builder. And but he lets, just how when he was a coach of Atlanta Falcons, he let Kyle Shanahan run the offense, take the team, do that, run the offense, and was great about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it just feels like a good fit right now. And, you kind of feel like Cliff Kingsbury may not go anywhere just because, you kind of get to a certain point. You're like, hey, tried the coaching job, didn't work out. Not sure that that's for me. Like the coordinator life. I'm really good at that. I'm excellent at that, and kind of sticks with it. So, and he's certainly got the quarterback he can grow with. And then the last one, of course, despite taking a loss this past weekend, I still think Kyler Murray is having a fantastic year. Those are kind of my 4. Did I miss anybody that you would think long term has a viable? And I think there's probably some others. I think you can make a case for, some people put Jalen Hurts there. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes not really having his greatest year though.
3-0, defending Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, but he's not. It's the defense that's winning that, and and also right now he's had poor performances. And they barely won against what you could call 3 not really great defenses. So I'm not really, I think he's, obviously excellent in what he does. And, if you tell me one quarterback, I get one throw, it's 4th down, minute left to go in the game, who am I taking? I'm probably going to take Patrick Mahomes, right? But right now, statistically, he's not the guy, and it's really their defense is really doing the job again. I don't think he's had a 300-yard game yet this year. So interesting on that. But, obviously some people would put in Justin Fields and, as a potential candidate. But, to me, feels like more the defense is doing that, and I think that's Pittsburgh's calling card, and that's what they're going to do. But, again, Justin Fields – gone from 60% completion rate to 73% completion rate, from Chicago to Pittsburgh. Again, you go to Chicago, just a really defensive culture. We'll kind of get into that here in a second. But you get into that, and then you've got, and he goes to Pittsburgh, and he's got Arthur Smith, and Arthur Smith is really working well with him as an offensive coordinator, really coaching him up. And his completion percentage has gone to 73%, and he's looking like he's evolving into a quarterback and not just an athlete. So really excited. We'll certainly talk about that. But, I understand that your Kansas City Chief fandom is kicking in with Patrick Mahomes. Anybody else there that I'm remiss in not adding?
Well, I would take Jaden Daniels out of that. I think he's more an offensive rookie of the year candidate than an MVP. He had a great game yesterday. I think maybe that's a little recency bias on you. And don't get me wrong, 3 games, he's been very promising. I have no complaints as a Washington fan. He threw for 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions yesterday, and that was by far his best game. Before that, he had 410 yards in the other 2 games, no touchdowns, no interceptions. So he hasn't turned it over. Good for him. 2 touchdowns last game, but it's not Dan Marino kind of MVP numbers. It's the kind of thing you'd think like a game manager like Phil Simms would do with the Giants back in the day, and that's perfectly good for a rookie. I mean, that's great for a rookie. I'm fine with that. But he's not just lighting it up. He made some great throws yesterday and all that, but he's 11th in yards passing among quarterbacks. I checked it while you were talking. Love the guy, but I think I'd keep him on the rookie side of that, not on the MVP side. And the other person who I would bring up would be Aiden Hutchinson. 6.5 sacks through 3 games. I think he had 4.5 in 1 game or something like that.
Yeah, the rest of the Detroit defense has only got 1 or 1.5, I think. So yeah, I mean he's the defense for them right now. I mean he's a wrecking ball. So, but rarely do you get that defensive player, unless you're just, you're just, one of the rare people, and maybe he grows into that person and becomes that player. But MVP, much like the Heisman's become a quarterback centric, and I guess that's why I didn't put him. But you're right, certainly deserves some consideration.
You know what surprised me is I was looking because I was like, TJ Watt feels like he's having a great year. Like every game I've seen with him, whether it's on Red Zone or when we were watching all those TVs last weekend, it feels like he's just tearing up the backfield for everybody he plays against. He's only got 3 sacks.
Yeah,
so I don't know what. I feel like I saw 3 or 4 sacks that didn't happen in my head somehow. I don't know, but surprised about that. But Hutchinson is at the top right now. Probably unsustainable to have more than 2 sacks a game on average, but that is almost certainly unsustainable. But still, amazing start. I like to throw a defensive name in there. I can't think of any, corners or safeties who are just pick-sixing everybody all day long. And, if you're a shutdown corner, you're not going to make a lot of noise by being a shutdown corner unless people are paying attention to the fact that nobody's throwing at you. So from the defensive side, I think that's it. I can't think of a running back I'd want to put in there. Maybe not Diggs, but what's his name in Minnesota? The other Minnesota great wide receiver.
Justin Jefferson?
Justin Jefferson, thank you. I'm sorry. Brain cramping. So, and I'm also not sure that I'd be putting Sam Darnold in this conversation. Again, having a really nice year has been really impressive. Granted, my expectations were low, but again, he's not exactly lighting it up. Like, I don't think he's.
Minnesota looks like the most complete football team. How could you not put him in the conversation? I mean, he's just absolutely crushing. As a matter of fact, I'd put Sam Darnold and Josh Allen at the top of the list.
Okay, well, he's 13th in yards, so he's behind Jaden Daniels. He has 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, so he has the most touchdowns among any quarterback. The next best is 7 from Josh Allen. So yeah, that's convincing for me. I haven't seen every snap he's played this year, so maybe he's been a little better than I realized. And it's good to see, if the team's doing well to do that. But then by that rationale, Mahomes should be in there, who, by the way, has got more passing yards than Sam Darnold. So, but we'll see.
I guess I'm spoiled, like a lot of people, on Patrick Mahomes and his just taking over the league. Kind of Tyreek Hill and before. Yeah. And it just not the. Still, he's the best quarterback on the planet, right?
But it's like when Michael Jordan was playing, or when Barry Bonds was all roided up and he was getting walked with the bases loaded. Yeah, you're looking for somebody else to give an MVP to. Just it's boring to keep giving it to that guy. Right, I agree.
Yeah, that's certainly a good point. The other thing, the next thing I want to look at is legit Super Bowl contenders. I have got. I put down 8 as well as their odds, and some of them I've notably left off. but some of them I find interesting, and I could certainly see placing a ticket, and I just might on some of these. Right now you've got the obvious Kansas City at plus 450. You've got San Francisco at plus 700. A lot of people might, disregard San Francisco right now, and I understand that, but they will get healthy at some point. And what if they get healthy about mid-season and just start tearing everybody up the back half of the season?
Yeah, they're not going to get a better price on them than right now, probably.
Certainly have the talent on that, plus 700. You've got Buffalo, that's at plus 800. You've got Detroit, and have sustained some injuries. We'll talk about those as well. Plus 1,300. You've got Green Bay. What LaFleur is doing right now with Malik Willis is just outstanding. I mean, you just got to. I mean, potentially, him, Kevin O'Connell, potentially battling out for Coach of the Year. You've got that's pretty amazing. Green Bay's at plus 2,000. Minnesota, I find really interesting. Minnesota is plus 3,000. It is just amazing. And again, I think they're the most complete football team out there. And you've got Brian Flores defense. I mean, it's like Brock Purdy and CJ Stroud have both come around from that and from playing their games and have just been confused. It's like things they've never seen before. He's going to get another shot as a coach. He was intense, had some missteps at Miami. Recently with Tua, bringing up that he's had some issues that he talked about how Brian Flores was kind of demeaning to him, and I'm sure Brian Flores is probably taking some of that to heart and like, hey, I need to be better at that. And so, but man, I don't think there's a better defensive coordinator out there right now than Brian Flores. And so Minnesota at 3,000 is really intriguing to me. Less intriguing is Pittsburgh at 3,500. I still don't believe in, Tomlin. I think that what he's doing here is fantastic. I think he called a break with rebuilding their roster, and Herbert's got a sprained ankle. And so, which Herbert had no business playing in that game. I don't know why Harbaugh did that. I like everything Harbaugh does, but I didn't like that. And the last one that you may or may not disagree with is the LA Rams. I love what Stafford is doing right now, and their whole team is on IR right now. And he's doing it without Puka Nacua, and he's doing it without Cooper Kupp, without his offense line. It's been a mash unit. What happens? How will they look when they all get back and get back healthy? And I think that's plus 7,000. It's worth it.
You're talking about how, in your words, they're doing it. They're 1-2. They just won their first game. They're not. Now I'm saying if they were 2-1, 3-0 doing it with this mash unit, then you could that would be a much more persuasive argument. I'm not sure when they are healthy. I know they're better when they're healthy because they're missing their two best wide receivers, but I'm not so sure that I believe they have the talent to win the Super Bowl.
Well, tell me this.
Sure.
If they win the coin toss in overtime instead of Detroit, and they're moving the ball and go down and score, and they're 2-1, do we look at them differently because they just got their beating Detroit and San Francisco, and with a makeshift personnel and not all their people? I mean,
yeah, it could be. But again, this is a 3-unit sample size. If you want to take a flyer on a real long shot, I don't blame you. But yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if we look up at the end of the year and they're 7-10, or 8-9.
To me, I agree. It's just kind of worth a few bucks. I can see them evolving down the path right now to do that. Any one of these teams you take a flyer on that I mentioned?
Read them to me one more time. Sorry.
Yeah, Kansas City 450 plus 450, San Francisco plus 700. Buffalo plus 800, Detroit plus 1,300, Green Bay plus 2,000, Minnesota plus 3,000, Pittsburgh plus 3,500, Rams plus 7,000.
Yeah, I don't think Minnesota is going to win the Super Bowl, and I know they've been impressive. they're 3-0 and they've won 3 impressive victories. I just feel like they're not as good as we think they are. But we'll see. I would definitely, if I were going to do it, I'd probably take San Francisco and Buffalo at this stage. I think the San Francisco rationale makes a lot of sense because I do think their weapons when they're back is going to make them way better than the Rams when their weapons are back. And Buffalo's just killing it. Now, granted, so is Minnesota, so that you can make that counter argument. But I just think Buffalo's pretty good. They got Josh Allen. Darnold is still, he's been really impressive, but we're still
right.
We haven't seen him go out and lay an egg yet, and that's going to happen at some point. So we'll see. But I'd probably go with those less long shot teams over the other ones. But
I understand.
Yeah,
you're an engineer by trade. I can understand you taking something stable. I got it. Switching from one NFC division to another, let's talk about one of your favorite teams, the Washington Commanders. Do the Washington Commanders now have the best quarterback in the NFC East?
Well, I don't know. Cowboy fans are probably not fond of you saying that, but I think
Cowboy fans haven't liked me.
Probably aren't very happy either. But
the Cowboy fans haven't liked me since the preseason, since I told them that they would be irrelevant once Thanksgiving hit. They'd be out of the playoffs. So
it's been quite a ride so far for them.
Yep. And now are the Commanders? Are they the favorite in the NFC East?
You got to do more than what we've seen.
Sure.
Yeah.
They literally haven't punted in 2 weeks.
I know.
They haven't punted in 2 weeks.
But Jaden Daniels also hasn't seen every look and every crazy blitz and every weird disguised coverage. I mean, sooner or later they're going to find something he doesn't like to do, whether it's pressure or maybe they pressure one side and they contain on the other, or they, double covers McLaurin or whatever. They're going to find something he hates and they're going to do it all the time, and then he's going to have to overcome that. So he looks great. I'm really the draft class looks great. That's what really makes me excited. Adam Peters seems to have knocked it out of the park with this draft. So
100%. Could it be the second year in a row that the second quarterback in the draft's number one?
Yep.
Really could be. I mean, he's certainly statistically better than all the other rookies right now. Looks like he's phenomenal. I mean, to me, his comp to me is a more accurate and polished passer, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, he reminds me of Lamar when he's out.
He's just not thick enough. When he reported to Arizona State when he first started, he was 158 pounds freshman year. But so he's got some thickening up to do. But I mean, the cat looks just like Lamar Jackson to me. Looks like he's going to dominate that division for years to come. And if they can hold the coaching staff and the team together, they can build a squad. And you got to believe that the new Washington ownership, they've taken over. They understand the struggles of the Washington fans, and they are ready to pour some money in that team. They're not going to be like the stupid Cincinnati Bengals management who are just cheap, and get rid of everybody and just have Burrow and not paying Jamar Chase, a whole different deal. But they're about to pour some money in this team, and I could see them dominating this division. I mean, because they're running it like a professional team. They're not running it like the mom and pop shop like Jerry Jones is running the Dallas Cowboys. So,
yeah, it's shocking to watch them actually seem competent because I haven't seen it in 25 years. But we'll see how this goes. As a Washington fan, there's a very recent cautionary tale that I can just point to and make everybody go, okay, I understand, which is RG3, who is just this good in his first year, looked like a 15-year captain, top of the, lead the team to whatever the glory would be. And then 2 years later, he was a backup in Baltimore. I don't think that doesn't happen often. Usually if you have a great first year as a quarterback, you're going to keep going. But I need to see more than 3 games to get, to really invest in it.
I understand. And I'm part of you. I see the smile. You're halfway giddy about it. So
I'm excited, but I'd be excited by 8 and 9 this year, and then something better next year with another good draft class. That's what I'd be excited about. I'm not counting my chickens that we're going to go 10-7 to make the playoffs or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe we will, but
Quickly, before we jump into the lines, one quick thing. I'm going to list the 3-0 teams. Give me your most surprised, and I'm going to list the 0-3 teams. Give me your most surprised. 3-0 teams: Buffalo, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Seattle. Most surprised?
Pittsburgh.
0-3 teams. Most surprised: Cincinnati, Tennessee, Jacksonville.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'll take Minnesota's my 3-0 I'm most surprised about, and Cincinnati as well. So good deal. Hey, one thing, clean up. Somebody put in the comments, MVP. I left off Saquon Barkley, and he's dominating that. He's got 5 of the 8 Eagles touchdowns. He looks like a different guy. His speed on that long run against New Orleans this past Sunday was 21.6 miles per hour. That's the fastest he's clocked since 2019. You think he's got a chip on his shoulder?
Yeah.
Yeah. So good comment, good catch by our listeners. They're always the smartest people. And last thing I'll mention is that teams that were noisy in the offseason, San Francisco, Cincinnati, Dallas, everybody want to get paid and a lot of noise. And shockingly, they're not so shockingly to me, they're all underperforming as well. So also one thing of interest about last night's game, Commanders and Bengals game, was the first NFL game in 84 years with no turnovers and no punts. So, well, let's jump into it, man. You take the wheel. Let's drive it.
All right. I'm going to start with Thursday night's game. We got Dallas 1-2 at the Giants 1-2. Dallas coming off the loss to Baltimore 28-25, and the Giants coming off a win over Cleveland 21-15.
Okay. The weather on this game, 74, 14% chance of rain, 5 miles an hour from the northwest as far as winds. Again, most of the weather is not going to matter again this week, but this is the way Smooth Andy and I have been doing this for years, because this is our process. Someone asked a question on X tonight, said, hey, what do you guys get out of this? What are you doing? Why are you even doing this? And it's like, are you just guessing a line, see how it compares? Well, it's much deeper than that. This is really the cornerstone of our success, and why we consistently beat other handicappers and why we beat the people in the desert most weeks is because we get involved in the process early and we start digesting the information. And this is the beginning part of this. Hopefully you guys can appreciate the work that we're putting into this. And not only that, because we're just not some yahoos up here just guessing lines. We actually put in the work, trying to take everything in consideration and we're also giving you guys information that we worked literally hours on the past couple of days and over the weekend to accumulate for this show, so that we can give you guys information, so that, even if Andy and I have a different take than you, at least you can take our information, and we've consolidated this information. Look, it's over, it's information I'm gathering from X, that we're gathering from, all different shows, all different stations, from games we're watching and plugging in, just so that you can hopefully benefit from this. My guess on this game is that it's going to be skewed toward Dallas, and I'll say Dallas 5, and I'll say a total of 47.5.
Okay, total, you said 47.5, opened 44, it's 45 now. The line, you said -5 for Dallas, I said -3 for Dallas. It opened 4, and it's up to 4.5. Oh, I beg your pardon, it's up to 5.5.
5.5.
So I filled this out today, so the things are moving quick.
Yep. Kind of about where I thought it would be for that. This is a must-win for Dallas. There's no doubt about it. Injuries for me, I'm just seeing the Giants cornerback Dory Jackson with a calf. I'm not sure what the status of him is yet, if he's day-to-day or if it's something that he's officially out yet. I haven't seen anything that he's out, but that's something to note. Look, man, I told everybody before the season, the preseason, and YouTube that look, the Cowboys just don't have a good roster. You know, they've got they're very soft defensively. I was expecting them to to cook up some bigger linebackers to because that's what they need. They need some bulls on the defensive line, and they need some space eaters that can just come downhill from the second level defensive back. But I don't know that you can fix this on the defense. I mean, they are just absolutely getting crushed. They're the worst run defense in the entire league. And they, they've trailed, get this, they've trailed by 20 or more points in their past 3 out of 4 games at home. At halftime, I mean, this was the score ended up close just because Baltimore felt like they pulled back the throttle a little bit in the fourth quarter. And Dak padded his stats, because he's throwing a lot of yards. And Jerry's pretty proud of that because Dak, like, hey, we've got the guy who throws the most yards in the league. Well, he's behind 20 points, and that's why they're throwing so much. And they're just, it's kind of in garbage time. But, at halftime, Baltimore was averaging 8 yards a play. At the end of the third quarter, they were averaging 9 yards a play. I mean, Dallas's defense, here's something that I thought was really interesting. The past 2 weeks, Dallas has given up 295 yards before contact. That's 3.5 yards of rush before contact. They're getting to the 4 yards. People are getting 4 yards. I mean, you can't help but win. I'm surprised they've won one game with that. I mean, of course, they did play Cleveland, who is even worse. They've allowed over 607 yards rushing and 7.7 yards per play over the last 3 home games. And they've also given up an average of 40 points a game the past 3 home games. You're just not going to win. Defense is ranked 29th. Their rushing game, this is their offense. Their offense is ranked 29th in rushing yards, 29th in yards per rush, and 29th in 10-plus yards. We all knew this was a big problem. Like, hey, you let Tony Pollard go and you replace him with Zeke Elliott? Like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? You're always going to get some production from this. Dallas, the community did a poll this morning that Jerry Jones, they asked him about on his weekly radio show, where it said they asked who's to blame for this, and 70% of the readers put that the blame was on Jerry Jones. And he came on the radio and said, yes, absolutely. It's, buck stops with me, and took accountability of it. And he's 100% right. I was glad to see him do it. Dallas rushed for a season low 51 yards versus the Baltimore Ravens. Here's something that's interesting. Derrick Henry has 281 yards rushing this season compared to the entire Cowboys team, who only has 221 yards rushing. They just don't have this. It's just really kind of sad where Dallas has gone. I just don't see it happening. For me, I felt like they just really got exposed by Baltimore. I mean, not like they weren't exposed before. I thought that I kind of saw it way before this, but I felt like that Baltimore really exposed them. They're just not getting the pass rush and the gap integrity that they did under Dan Quinn, and it's really showing. Getting on with Dallas, when it turned into this game, Dak has beaten the Giants 12 times in a row by an average of 17 points. I understand the line. I understand why it is what it is. Dak, here's something interesting. Since 2020, Dak and the Cowboys only have 6 fourth-quarter comebacks. That's the same number as Daniel Jones has. How about them apples? And then you turn your page to the Giants, and the first thing I put down, how in the world did the Giants let Saquon go? I mean, Joe Shane should be fired. I mean, it just should be just a bloodletting there. I mean, I don't get it. The good news is they definitely have a number one receiver, Malik Neighbors, and he might just make them good enough to where they can't draft high enough to get rid of Daniel Jones, which is the interesting thing. He leads the league in targets, second reception, fifth in receiving yards, and tied for first in receiving TDs. And the Giants' offensive line is playing pretty well right now. Anything that you think about that game?
I'm probably going to stay away. Dallas looks like a bit of a train wreck at the moment. It's hard to know whether, we get these platitudes and we talk about a team like Dallas and go, well, they've been humbled and now it's time for them to assert themselves back to where they are and yada, yada, yada. And then the Giants, meanwhile, they were 0-2. They've got off the schneid. They got their win. They can exhale now. Are they going to come in with a full effort? Or do they look around in the locker room and say, look, we're going to be like a 6-win team at best this year. Losing to Dallas is not shameful. Not that they won't give their effort, but little subconscious edges and things. But I don't know. Dallas might just be this bad. I doubt it. I think they can't look much worse than they have the last 2 weeks. But we've seen teams that we've gone into the year thinking. I know you predicted that they wouldn't make the playoffs, but I don't think you were thinking that they would be looking quite this bad. So.
I really did. Honestly, I really did. I thought they would look this bad. I thought they would be bad. I thought they were too Dak dependent. Dak just doesn't. He's got a losing record without a 100-yard rusher, and that's what he has this year. And I expect this thing to continue. This is not something you can fix without some roster adjustments on the defensive side and offensive side. They are so top heavy, with CD, with Dak, and with Micah Parsons. As far as money, and they've just done a poor job. Jerry has done a poor job constructing this roster, and I think they're in trouble. I mean, I think this is a long year. Tried to break the Cowboy fans in for this. Not something I didn't expect. I did expect them to be this bad. I will be surprised if the Cowboys have a winning record after it's all said and done.
Okay. Well, let that be the last word. We'll move on to the Sunday game. Sorry about the dogs. I'm trying to mute.
That's all right.
1 o'clock, New Orleans 2-1 at Atlanta 1-2. I should say I already put a bet on this, which we can talk about in a minute. New Orleans coming off a loss to Philadelphia 15-12, and Atlanta coming off a loss to Kansas City 22-17.
Yeah, big surprise to me. I had New Orleans versus Philadelphia. I thought they would have a juggernaut. I thought they would have, the offense would continue. Philadelphia, Vic Fangio, what I didn't expect is Vic Fangio to actually, teach an old dog new tricks, to actually change his scheme. And he did. He went from, 4-down lineman to a 5 or bear front and just stifled, those outside zone runs that I thought was going to be such a terrible mismatch for Philadelphia in that game, but just stifled them. Derek Carr looked like the Derek Carr of old under blitz. He quickly fell off my MVP race and looked very Derek Derek Carrish. And so interesting deal. Atlanta, I know everybody's going to come back to the pass interference call that wasn't called in the end zone at the end of the game. It absolutely 100% was a pass interference call. However, Kirk Cousins really should take some blame in that, because had he hit, I believe it was Drake London, was the receiver. If he had just hit him in the face mask like you're supposed to, that's a touchdown. It doesn't matter if he was getting tackled prematurely or not. He comes down with the ball, and that's the game. But it was just bad ball placement from there. I'm sure that Kirk Cousins will come back from that and get better in that. But right now, that was not very good. Atlanta's got some issues on the offensive line. Right tackle Caleb McGarry is believed to have suffered an MCL sprain, waiting MRI for confirmation. And also center Drew Dahlman suffered a high ankle sprain, awaiting the results of MRI for confirmation. Could be an injured reserve candidate. So really devastating injuries against the Chief. could impact the game. Certainly on that one as well. Weather, obviously, in a dome. My guess is that total, I put 43.5, and I put Falcons -1.5 being at home.
There we go. Total, you said 43.5, open 44. It is now went down to 42.5, and it is still there.
Okay.
As for the line, you said New Orleans -1.5. I said New Orleans -2.5. It opened Atlanta -2.
Oh, no, I said Atlanta -1.5.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry, I misunderstood. All right. You said Atlanta -1.5. I said New Orleans -2.5 because I've seen very little from Atlanta that I've seen from New Orleans this year. I just thought they'd be a short dog at home. And it opened, to your credit, -2 Atlanta, and it's down to -1.5 now.
Okay.
So I grabbed 1.5 with New Orleans just because I didn't want it to go through the 0 and come out the other side. And if I need to, I can always get out of it as long as the line doesn't start going up all of a sudden. So,
look, I get it.
Yeah,
I certainly understand what you did with that, and with the offensive line issues with Atlanta right now. I certainly don't blame you. I think New Orleans has some issues right now on their offensive line. I think their center is out, suffered injury. Los Eagles expected to require surgery and be sidelined 6 to 8 weeks. Center's Eric McCoy. It's per Mike Garoppolo of NFL Network. So look, that's a big deal. Obviously, center's out. You and I place a lot of value in when we bet games when a center's out. That's a problem. So looks like both these teams could be without their starting centers. And for me, I just need to dig in and get familiar with their backup centers really quick to make a pick on this line to see who's better positioned to take over. So should be interesting. I don't know about A.J. Brown. I mean, I don't think people really understand. Sorry, not A.J. Brown. I was thinking New Orleans when they played Philadelphia.
Olave?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going with that. But anyway, regardless, Atlanta, a couple of issues that I saw with Atlanta against the Chiefs that may rear their ugly head, you may be already taking consideration in your bet, was that Atlanta was only 2 of 9 on third down against the Chiefs, and they were season low 3.3 yards per rush against the Chiefs. I felt like the play calling, look, I think that we talk about it over and over and over, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing about it, but again, it's worth mentioning again. It's mentioning every single week is that the last 2 minutes of a game, it's situational coaching, and it matters. And I felt like Raheem Morris, I felt like his situational calling, his not kicking a field goal with like just under 5 minutes left in the game, and running the same exact play that they scored a touchdown on. Like Nick Bolton was expecting them on that 4th down play to run the exact same play that they had success with when they scored a touchdown. And so he was ready for it. And that's when he stopped it on 4th down. So I really feel like that if Raheem Morris doesn't start picking it up, that he's going to end up getting fired again. And it's because I just think situational coaching is big. Really disappointed in situational coach. I thought his play callings on 3rd and 4th downs were horrendous. And I was really disappointed in the situational coaching there at the end of the game. So I understand why you take New Orleans. I'm certainly not high on them or high on Atlanta right now after what I observed in that game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, next game is Pittsburgh 3-0 at Indianapolis 1-2. Pittsburgh coming off a win over the Chargers 20-10, and Indy coming off the win over Chicago 21-16.
Okay, this one's in a dome. So no weather. My guess on this one is that I took 36 as a total, and I put Pittsburgh favored by 6.5.
Wow, you are off.
Okay. Good.
It's in Indianapolis, right? It's not at
Yeah, I
Pittsburgh.
do.
Okay. The total, you said 36. It opened 38.5. It's up to 40 now, so it's going up. So
Wow.
if you like it that low, man, take it.
Okay.
And as for the line, you said 6.5 Pittsburgh. I said 2.5. It opened Pick'em, and it's up to 2 now. So it's Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Pittsburgh -2 right now.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Don't tell anybody, but I love that game.
Yeah, I kind of do too, but I mean, after watching Richardson last week, it makes me feel like that's a good bet. But I'm not sure I like Justin Fields too much either. I know they're 3-0, but it's not like they've been gangbusters. They've been kind of beating up on some not so great teams. But anyway, we'll see. But I can see what you mean. I have another one that I really like coming up later, but I'll let you know when it comes here.
Well, just quickly on the injuries, Pittsburgh rookie offensive tackle Troy Fontenot dislocated kneecap, placed on IR the other day, will have surgery repair the ligament damage. He's out for the regular season, but could return if Pittsburgh makes the playoffs. And they were already thin on offensive line anyway, at least what I've heard. Pittsburgh, Justin Fields, 73% of his passes completion. I mean, all these quarterbacks, you just didn't think you could coach the recklessness out of them. And somehow Arthur Smith has, again, gone from 60%, which is sub where you want to be in the NFL as an NFL quarterback, to 73%, which is, elite, which is fantastic. So, but the problem is that they're winning on 1 TD a week, and that's not going to last forever, right? Their last 8 games are just brutal, except they do get Cleveland twice, which I thought was brutal at the beginning of the season. Not so much looking so brutal now. Cleveland looked just like a complete mess, just a disaster. Cleveland's last year appeared to be the anomaly. This year's back to being Cleveland. Pittsburgh's had the luck of the draw right now. They faced Kirk Cousins off an Achilles. They faced Bo Nix in his second start, and
Justin Herbert with a sprained ankle.
That's right, a high ankle sprain, which he should never start. Digress into that again. But look, Pittsburgh Steelers offense, again, yards passing per game, 158.3, which is 29th in the NFL. Their rushing yards per attempt, 3.4, 28th in the NFL. Yards per play, 4.6, 28th in the NFL. And offensive TDs, 3, tied for last. This is not going to – their red zone percentage is 25%. This is, again, tied for last. This is not going to last. But I think it could last one more because of Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson just looks atrocious. He's 500, right at a 50% completion percentage. And how bad was he against the Bears? I'm glad you asked. His total QBR was 17.6, NFL ranked 4th worst. His completion percentage was 50%, was the worst in the NFL. His TD and interception rate, 0 TDs, 2 interceptions, worst in the NFL. Look, man, every time I watch him, his eyes are in the wrong speed. His eyes are in the wrong spot. His feet never get settled. You just can't get away with that in the NFL. And let's just talk about again, how bad is Anthony Richardson this year? Across the past 10 years, 135 quarterbacks have attempted at least 100 passes, and Richardson's 2024 completion percentage over expected metric currently ranks 134th out of 135 passers.
Zach Wilson?
Over the past 10 years.
Zach Wilson?
Yeah.
He's 135, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. So your default for anybody that's bad is just Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I mean,
well deserved though.
Yeah, I would have. There was a time when I would have said Rick Mirer, but now I think Zach Wilson is now the standard.
He is. He's got pole position on that. So, but anyway, but that's bad. You and I had Indianapolis in the game this weekend, Chicago. profitable game for us, but I think we both were happy once that game ended because you just knew that Anthony Richardson, by the end, they just kept running the ball. They wouldn't even let Anthony Richardson throw the ball. Shane Steichen, look, I think I think he's extremely happy to have his own coaching job and is doing a great job. But at the same time, I'm sure he wishes he had somebody other than Anthony Richardson. Wishes he had Jalen Hurts back, and I'm sure Jalen Hurts wishes he had Shane Steichen back.
Well,
so
who knows? Maybe he'll have Justin Fields or Russell Wilson next year as a starter. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, let's move on.
All right. Next game is Jacksonville 0-3 at Houston 2-1. Jacksonville coming off the loss to Buffalo, that butt kicking last night, 47-10.
Yep.
Houston coming off a loss to Minnesota, 34-7, also a butt kicking.
Well, got some strong opinions about this game, or some players in this game. The actual, what my guess is on this game, I'm going to put the total at 45, and I'm going to put Houston at 3.5.
Okay, this is an interesting one. You said 45 on the total. That's pretty much right on. It opened 44.5. It's up to 45 now.
Okay.
Yes, 45. Excuse me.
Okay.
You said Houston minus 3.5. I said Houston minus 7.5.
Okay.
That's how bad I thought Jacksonville looked yesterday. And it opened minus 4, and it's up to 7 now. So it's moved 3 points.
Wow.
That's a big move on Tuesday. So yeah.
No doubt about it. Look, I can understand. Look, I still don't. I think something's still wrong with Houston. I think something's still wrong with their offense. I don't trust it. CJ Stroud doesn't seem like the same quarterback as last. I mean, he still seems great. I mean, but he's just not seeing the field as well as I thought he did last year. Between the numbers, when he threw him between the numbers against the Vikings, had a QBR of 9. It's what Brian Flores does to you. His stats without the blitz were so good. Our stats with the blitz and without the blitz, we talked about it last week, were just almost identical. Brian Flores, what he did against him. QBR without the blitz was 94. QBR with the blitz with Brian Flores against Vikings was 13. So big difference there. But fortunately for him, he's going up against Jacksonville, who is 31st in pass rush win rate. And I have no doubt that's why that total just went up, because this is a get-right game for Houston, even though it's a desperate time for Jacksonville, backs against the wall. But this is a get-right game for Houston's offense. And, I could certainly see a long night again with Jacksonville. What is wrong with Jacksonville? Is it the quarterback? Is it the coach? Is it both? You got to feel right now that Trevor Lawrence just doesn't look like he hasn't evolved into the guy that we thought. Look, the rumors, and I've had 2 or 3 people source this within the league for me that have told me that Trevor Lawrence, the biggest problem with him is that he is this phenomenal all-world talent. And he was just so much better than everybody in high school and college that he didn't have to just put in all the work. And that the issue with him in the NFL is that he likes football, but he doesn't love it. And you have to be just how you and I, to be as good as we are at handicapping, at least most weeks, you and I have to be obsessed with this and have to literally put our heart and soul in this and to do this. And that's what you have to do as an elite NFL quarterback. Your elite NFL quarterbacks are absolutely obsessed with this position. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, obsessed with this position. And they have to be. Joe Burrow, it's not his fault he's playing on a team that has terrible defense, but obsessed with the quarterback position. And you just don't hear that. I mean, and his contract, they just signed this rich contract, and he's still owed $29 million guaranteed in 2027. So look, he's now lost 8 games in a row. An elite quarterback doesn't do this. As much as it pains me to say this about Trevor Lawrence, his stats just for this year: win-loss, obviously 0-3, tied for last. Completion percentage 52.8%. That's 31st in the league. Passing yards per game 186.7, which is 26th in the league. Passer rating 75.1, which is 27th in the league. I'm just really concerned about Trevor Lawrence. And to add on to that, Doug Peterson came out today and said that that he's evaluating every single position, and every position is on the line. And he did not rule out Trevor Lawrence as far as that. Mac Jones is the backup quarterback. We could have a Mac Jones sighting pretty soon, but Trevor Lawrence has got to figure out if he loves football or if he doesn't, because guy's got all the talent in the world, apparently just is not putting in the work and he's not just obsessed like the elite quarterbacks. And it's kind of a shame. Like I said, I've got his a rookie signed card that I love, and I was really counting on him doing great, and it just hadn't materialized. And I just don't see him getting any better. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. It's weird. Sometimes when I watch them play, I mean, their defense isn't playing great at all. They gave up 47 to Buffalo. I don't think they're well coached. I'm starting to think maybe Doug Peterson, there's a good reason why the Philadelphia Eagles fired him a year after he won a Super Bowl. I thought, geez, that's, a quick, it's being impatient, but maybe he's just not very good, in which case Trevor's had two coaches, one being Urban Meyer and the other being Doug Peterson. He's had new coordinators every year. But that said, and honestly, their offensive line is not great. I mean, there's sometimes when he drops back to pass and he gets the end of his drop and they're already on him. But that said, I've seen him.
Joe Burrow's running for his life too.
Yeah.
And yet he is elite. And Trevor Lawrence, many believe he is as, if not more talented than Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I know. I was getting to that. I was saying I'm seeing a lot of bad things from Jacksonville, not just Trevor, but I am seeing Trevor missing guys. Like he threw that pick. The pick that he threw yesterday was where somebody was open and sitting down in the zone 15, 20 yards downfield, and he just sent it over his head and the safety picked it off.
That's when Lamar Hamlin got it right. That was like 18 yards. I mean, like 18 feet over his head. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean,
So he's doing that too. So it's not all of his teammates, but it's not all him. Until they've got one wide receiver who's decent, and then a very young one in Brian Thomas who's coming along and seems to be like a keeper, but yet hard to see where you go with the ball too much. I guess he's got ETN too, which helps. He doesn't have what's his name, the tight end, Evan Ingram, who was his go-to guy last year. I'm not sure when he gets back, but I might keep an eye on that as a spot for Jacksonville.
Right.
It'd be great if it was this week. Anyway, right. I'm not giving up on him. I hope you're wrong. I hope he puts in the time, because he's not a dumb guy. He's got to know you.
No, he's not dumb.
He's got to know that you got to put in the time. And even if he's not putting in the level of effort on film and everything as Mahomes, if he's doing more of an average level of film, that would be fine. Sounds like he's doing well below average level of film, like maybe not Jamarcus Russell level, but still pretty low. If that's the case, he needs all the hate he's getting right now should be a motivator to him, I hope.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, right? I mean, we'll see how he's motivated. Look, he's always been able to outsmart and out-athlete everybody at every level, and now he's in the NFL. He's got guys that you can't do that, but he could still be that way. I mean, you're just like, you think of people in the NBA, you're like all-world talent. If you just put in the work, the same thing applies to football. And look, this is clearly becoming a knock on Trevor right now. I'd love to see him invest in this because, look, again, they're still paying him 2027. He's not going to be out of the league. But Mac Jones, we may be looking at a Mac Jones starting quarterback in Jacksonville sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah, we gotta get pick up the pace here. We've only
Yep.
done 4 games, and we're in Minnesota 3-0 at Green Bay, 2-1. Minnesota beat Houston 34-7. Green Bay beat Tennessee 30-14.
Outside, cooling down, but still good football weather in Green Bay. 71. Still pretty warm. 26% chance of showers. 8-mile-an-hour winds. So not a big deal there. My guess on this one is that I will take. I'll put the total at 45, and I'll put Green Bay at 2.5.
Okay. Total, you said 45, open 42.5, and is currently at 42.5. And the number, you said Green Bay minus 2.5.
Yep.
I said Green Bay minus 3. It opened 2, and it's up to 2.5. So we're sort of both on that one.
Okay.
Should be a good game, though. That should be really interesting to see who comes out of that. Although I guess, when is Jordan Love coming back? How long? Do we know?
Don't know. Kind of week to week. Obviously, with way Malik Willis has outperformed what anybody thought he would do, then they probably won't rush him back because they probably won some games that they didn't think they were going to win, and so they built in a little bit of a cushion there. The good news for Vikings fans, first of all, on the injury front, Sam Darnold's MRI revealed only a knee bruise, no structural damage, considered day-to-day, but looks like he's going to play this week. Again, Matt LaFleur is a great coach. There was a big risk of bringing in Jeff Hafley from Boston College. On the defensive side, Green Bay had 7 interceptions of all last season. They have 7 interceptions so far this year. Really impressive. Really interesting thing about Green Bay's offense, they really tailor it to Malik Willis. They are literally running the wing tee that we ran in high school. They're running that. They're running this offense that fits him. And he had 58 passing yards in the first half. This is the most he's ever thrown in his career. Certainly he's making throws down the field, which no one, including me, thought he could do.
There's a time coming soon where he turns back into a pumpkin. I'm pretty sure.
No question about it. Look, I mean,
they'd be advised to go ahead and put him on the trading block right now and see if anybody's throw something.
I mean, here's the deal. He now has to face Brian Flores defense. Okay, where the elite quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud, Brock Purdy, the past 2 weeks have not fared well against. So this is going to be a tougher margin for him to do that. But again, shows you how elite of a coach LaFleur is. Some people even think now LaFleur could be, I think it's kind of like, you kind of go Reed, Shanahan, McVay, kind of those. And now LaFleur certainly gets some love in that group because of what he's done so immediately. I mean, Tennessee gave Malik Willis away for a prayer. They gave him for a 7th-round pick and just a song. And now he is come back and he just kicked Tennessee's ass. I mean, it just wasn't even close. Going to Minnesota, we kind of talked about that. Sam Darnold talked about his MVP, me thinking personally legitimate MVP. His passer rating's 117. He's finally got an offensive coach, leads the NFL in TD passes. He just torches man coverage. 3 of his 4 passes against Houston came versus man coverage, and 7 total against man this season, which is the highest in the NFL. Really impressive. Minnesota also phenomenal on the defensive side, leads the NFL in sacks with 16. Just really excited about that. One other thing I wanted to put in there was some sad news out of Green Bay today. Brett Favre announced at a congressional hearing today that he was recently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Just awful to hear that. Favre played 20 years in the NFL and testified that he estimated that he may have had about 1,000 concussions in his career. So really, really sad.
He was testifying because of a welfare fraud that he is supposed to have committed in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminds me a little, and I'm not unsympathetic about the diagnosis, but it reminds me a little bit of Kevin Spacey when he got busted for the Me Too sexual harassment of a man who used to work on a film with him.
Yeah.
And then he came out of the closet right then. So he like tried to, it was like he was trying to, I'm not saying Favre would lie about it necessarily, although he does seem like a little bit of a weirdo, but using something, there's no reason to bring up Parkinson's disease while you're at a hearing talking about welfare fraud, unless you're trying to.
Yeah, I don't know how that came up. I don't know the context of how that kind of came up, but again, really sad to hear that. Parkinson's devastating to many families. Hang on one second. I'm going to turn on the light. It's getting dark in here in my hotel room in Omaha.
Ugh. No, sorry, Omaha. I didn't mean that.
Come on now. Be better than that.
I know. I shouldn't do that. I mean, I lived in Kansas City for a lot of years, and I loved it there. I've never been to Omaha.
That's a lot better now. I'm not sure if it's better for the audience. They can now see me a little bit better, but let's move on.
Okay, next game is Cincinnati 0-3 at Carolina 1-2. Oh boy. Cincy coming off the loss to Washington 38-33 last night. Carolina coming off the win over Vegas 36-22 with the Red Rifle.
Yep. You and I cashed in on Carolina. And then I lost last night with Cincinnati. I just can't even believe that. Weather, 74 degrees, 20% chance of showers, winds 8 miles an hour from the east. My injuries on this, offensive tackle Trent Brown went down with a knee injury, went out in the Washington game. He is out for the season after tearing his patellar tendon. Really tough. Carolina wide receiver Adam Thielen put on IR today after his injury. We caught that touchdown pass in the end zone. Looked in a lot of pain as he was walking off the field.
It was a hamstring, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So hopefully not too bad. Just gotta wait a month for it to heal up. Something like that.
So my guess in this game, I put 47.5, and I put Cincinnati favored by 6.5.
Okay. You said 47.5 on the total. It opened 45 and then went to 48.
Okay.
And they're seeing some 48.5s popping up now. You said Cincinnati minus 6.5. I said Cincinnati minus 3. I just don't feel like an 0-3 team on the road should be favored by more than that. But it opened 5.5 and it's come down to 4.5.
4.5. Okay.
So we got it surrounded.
No, good to know. Look, I mean, funny, all the woke crowd on ESPN that was talking about how pitiful and poorly Bryce Young was treated and how he shouldn't have been, benched, and it was the organization that failed him. And all of a sudden you have Andy Dalton that plays, and now he is you don't hear the people saying anything now. They're like, well, maybe it was Bryce Young. Look, it's really interesting when people get really they make broad statements, right? They make like, hey, this team sucks, and it's like, well, maybe it's the coach, and then you get rid of the coach and you have the interim coach, and all of a sudden they play great, and then you hire the interim coach, and then you end up with Antonio Pierce, and we'll see how he ends up. But again, they play better. Or was it Rich Bisaccia with Oakland years ago? Before that, or Bisaccia? Is it Bisaccia or
Bisaccia, I think, and then there was Tom Cable too.
So you had all that going, and the same thing happens with quarterbacks. Sometimes the team just, and again, what I'm hearing is that the team knew that there needed to be a change, and they were so relieved. You saw them step up for Andy Dalton. Just had a phenomenal day. And I'm just tired of the woke crowd telling me that. That Bryce Young was done wrong, and look, if he can't play, he can't play. Again, our comp was a smaller, the same size Kyler Murray without the arm and without the speed. I mean, who would want that? And not as thick as well. I mean, Kyler Murray is really thick, was, drafted. I think he could have gone number 1 in baseball as well. So again, just a really phenomenal athlete. Let's see. It's, I wrote this analogy. It was like, hey, when you change a quarterback or a coach, sometimes plants look dead and then you actually water them and they're not, they come back to life. It's kind of what Carolina looked like to me. Andy Dalton, 3 TDs and over 300 passing yards. One quarterback who has done that all season, and it's Andy freaking Dalton. So really interesting. You had people that emerged. You talked about plants coming back to life, green shoots that you saw in Carolina. Deontay Johnson looked just incredible. I'm sure Adam Thielen was grateful that he found a quarterback who would get him the pass. It's just terrible that he's on IR now. But getting on to Cincinnati, I just, defense never forcing Washington to punt. I've been this big supporter of Lou Anarumo, and maybe he's still good, but it's still the organization that's really cheap, right? They just keep getting rid of their pieces. They got rid of DJ Reader on the defensive line. They got rid of all the people, Jesse Bates. They got rid of all these pieces back there that could help them win the championship. You look at good organizations. Good organizations are Green Bay, Baltimore, Kansas City. Those teams constantly replicate. They always have the best scouting people. They always have the best. Green Bay goes through extensive interviews to make sure that people are going to be happy in Green Bay and love it, want to be there before they even hire people. Then they go out and they overpay people the best. And so does Kansas City, and so does Baltimore. Those are great A+ organizations that do things like that so that they can run that. Because, quarterbacks can win games, but organizations, those are people that drive success over the long term. And Cincinnati, I feel sorry for Joe Burrow. I mean, look, it's great that he's loyal to his home state and Cincinnati, but they are just determined not to put a winning organization or team around him. One of the things that bothered me last night, just know this: in the past 20 games, Cincinnati's defense is dead last in the NFL. Let that sink in. I also looked at Zach Taylor differently in that game last night. Every time I looked at him last night, he looked confused. He looked like he had this dumb look on his face. I used to think he was this great coach. I don't think that anymore. I saw him in his interview at halftime. They were interviewing him like, hey, what are you going to do? I didn't really hear anything insightful, not like he was going to, but I just thought he was a guy that didn't have much of a clue. Lou Anarumo, like I said, nobody's been a bigger fan of his than mine, but it took him till the end of the game to figure out that he's got to blitz Jaden Daniels, that he's got to that if you just let him don't blitz him, he's going to pick you apart. Now, obviously the last play of the game was a blitz and he just torched him, and he's still 91% completion percentage. But I mean, that's really embarrassing for a defense to do that. You had Cam Taylor-Britt just calling the offense of Washington Commanders a high school offense, and that high school offense just torched him, and he obviously backtracked on that. We talked about, I talked about Trevor Lawrence not being elite because you can't lose 8 games in a row. Joe Burrow's now lost his past 5 games that he's played in. The good news for 0-3 teams, 120 teams to start, 0-3. Only the 2018 Texans have made the playoffs. The good news for Bengals fans, they do have the fourth easiest schedule remaining going forward. So there is some hope left. I really like Cincinnati, really like the Bengals. If I had a team, they would be my team. But I'm just I'm becoming a little I'm kind of falling away from them right now just because of what I see from the organization and them being so cheap. Look, I mean, if you look on the defense now, they've got Trey Hendrickson, but who else? Who else do they have? I don't see it. I don't see the commitment there. And the one thing that bothered me last night is that in game, and I didn't hear anybody else talk about this, is that Amarius Mims, who came in, who replaced when Trent Brown went in, the first thing they did is they blitzed him off the edge and with Javante Jean Baptiste, and he immediately just whiffed on that block, and Jean Baptiste sacked him, and Amarius Mims looked at Burrow, and Burrow's on the ground, and instead of helping him up, he just turned around and walked off. And to me, I mean, nothing is everything, but everything is something. And to me, that was something. And I didn't like that one bit. Just bothered me. I'm like, if you're an offensive lineman, you give up the sack, you go help the quarterback up. And nobody helped up Joe Burrow after he got sacked. I was just really kind of blown away with that. Maybe Joe Burrow was just pissed and like, don't touch me. You just let somebody just crush me, and we're trying to score a touchdown here. But that was it for me.
Okay. On to the next one. We got LA Rams 1-2 at Chicago 1-2. The Rams coming off the loss to San Francisco 27-24. Chicago coming off the loss to Indianapolis 21-16.
Chicago again, 71 degrees, 47% chance of showers, 10-mile-an-hour winds. I guess on this one I put 43 as a total, and I put Rams 2.5.
43 flat as a total?
I did.
Okay. Total, you said 43. It opened 40, and it's up to 41. You said 2.5 at the Rams. I said 1.5. It's actually Chicago opened 1.5, and it's up to 3 now. So Chicago -3 is the number. I don't get that, but there it is.
Interesting. Cooper Kupp's still out this week. He didn't go on IR, so he's back to back. I mean, Chicago has no run game, bad O-line. This coaching staff needs to be changed. Look, Chicago Bear fans, I like Caleb Williams. He's going to be successful in this league. You can tell it, but he's not going to be successful with this coaching staff. You're going to have a massive jump next year. Ryan Poles is GM, fantastic. When they get rid of the defensive staff and you get an offensive coach in there, hopefully they hire somebody good, and you get an offensive coach next year, then Caleb Williams, they'll polish those rough spots of Caleb Williams, and you'll see a massive jump from year 1 to year 2. But I think it's just going to be a tough year for them this year. In about every offensive statistic, they're last or next to last. Yards per game, 30th NFL. Rushing yards per game, 30th NFL. Yards per play, last. Big plays, tied for 30th. Offensive TDs, tied for last, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course. And how bad is Chicago's running game? DeAndre Swift, who we like as a running back, only averaging 1.8 yards per carry. Chicago averaging 3.7 yards per play, lowest in the entire NFL. Caleb has the most off-target throws of any quarterback in the NFL. Just kind of a tough deal. But getting to the LA Rams, they only led for 2 seconds in the game against the 49ers, but those were the most 2 important 2 seconds, and they were certainly important for you as you had the money line on them. So congratulations.
Yep, thank you. I was very happy about that. I said they lost to San Francisco, but yes, I shouldn't have.
You shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. I will change that now.
Your
All
wallet
right.
is heavier because of them.
Yep.
Well,
Very much so. Well, my electronic wallet, as it were. But yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We'll go Denver. We got Denver at 1-2 at the New York Jets at 2-1. Denver coming off the win over Tampa Bay 26-7, and the Jets coming off a win over New England 24-3.
weather 71, 13% chance of showers, 8-mile-an-hour winds out of the northeast. I guessed a total of 45, and I put the Jets at -8.
Okay, total 45. That one opened 40, and it's gone down to 38.5. So there's a little spot for you if you like it. Jets, you said -8. I said -6.5. It opened to 8. It's down to 7.
Okay. Yeah.
7.5 make that. It's ticked up again a little. Okay.
To me, just wonder if Rodgers can do the same thing against New England does against Denver. I started with a higher line just because the Jets having extra time to prepare. Disadvantage for Denver having to go all the way to Tampa, come back, go all the way to the East Coast again. Aaron Rodgers has a passer rating of 118 on third down. They have the best third down percentage in the entire league at 57%. This is a real stat that matters. So something to think about. Certainly people that bet, think about that. If you are trying to figure out your process of how to learn, of how to look at bets and how to evaluate those, that's a real stat that matters. So third down percentage rate, Jets are the highest. So congratulations, Jets fans. That's a good stat in your favor.
Okay. Next one is the last of the 1 o'clock window, which is Philadelphia 2-1 at Tampa 2-1. Philadelphia coming off the win over New Orleans 15-12. Tampa coming off the loss to Denver 26-7. This one surprised me. I got the wrong team favored when I guessed.
Okay, I've got this is the highest temperature of the week, as well as the highest percent of thunderstorms. 85 degrees, 53% chance of thunderstorms, 7-mile-an-hour winds from the southwest. I guess total of 46, and I put Philadelphia -1.
Okay, you said 46. It opened 45, and it is now 45 still. You said Philadelphia -1. I said Tampa -1.5. I know they're both 2-1. I've been more impressed by Tampa. I think Philadelphia is a little smoke and mirrorsy. And it opened Philadelphia 1, just as you called it, and it's up to 2.5 now. So I'm liking a look at a Tampa Bay bet at some point if this thing keeps moving, especially.
Yeah, I understand why. Look, we've got Lane Johnson in concussion protocol, Devontae Smith still in concussion protocol. They've added some wide receivers today. Jalen Hurts still turns the ball over too much for me. Jalen Hurts has 26 giveaways since Shane Steichen has left, and 19 picks of those 26 or 19 interceptions. The 26 giveaways that Jalen Hurts has during that time frame is the most in the entire league. We talked about earlier, 5 of the 8 TDs they're generating or come from Saquon. What would this team be like if they didn't have Saquon Barkley? Got to give a shout out to Dallas Goedert, 10 receptions for 170 yards. Certainly the most receiving yards a tight end has had in Eagles history. But interesting, the thing that's troubling for me is not only the turnovers, but the Eagles over the past 2 seasons have been outscored 140-72 in the final 2 minutes of halves. So something to be back. Talked about A.J. Brown. I'm not sure the Eagles' offense is going to look completely right till he gets back. I mean, this guy's so important to Jaylen Brown. He's actually the godfather of Jalen's daughter. And so to say they have a close connection is something that it cannot be would be understated there. Tampa Bay gave up 7 sacks, the other day. So against Denver, Baker just hadn't been good on third downs the past 2 weeks either. So I can understand why the line is what it is. Philadelphia with some injuries, especially Lane Johnson, right tackle, Devontae Smith, options for Jalen Hurts. I can see offenses being a little bit stagnant here. I can see an under the total in this one. And I think Tampa Bay is kind of coming back down to earth. So it's kind of my view on it.
Okay. Next one is the first of the 4 o'clock window. Washington 2-1 at Arizona 1-2. Washington coming off the win over Cincinnati last night, 38-33. Arizona coming off the loss to Detroit, 20-13.
Your Washington Commanders. This is in a dome. My guess on this one. Look, I went a total at 51. I put Arizona at -1.5.
Okay. Total is 50, open 50. It's up to 51 and down to 50.5, I guess. So sort of in that region. This one's all over the place. You said Arizona -1.5. I said Arizona -2.5. It opened Arizona -6, and it's now down to -3.5.
I understand why it's heading the direction it's heading.
Yeah.
Arizona tight end injuries. Arizona tight end Trey McBride in concussion protocol. That's a big deal. Jaden Daniels, 91% completion rate against the Bengals. This was the highest completion percentage ever recorded by a rookie quarterback, minimum 20 attempts in NFL history. His 80.3% completion rate is the second highest completion percentage in a player's first 3 games, minimum 50 attempts. Look, a lot of things I like about Jaden Daniels. He's got twitchy mind, twitchy body, processes things very quickly, moves very quickly. I told you, he reminds me of Lamar Jackson. What he has is sustainable. His right now, his ball placement already, his deep ball accuracy, and his pocket toughness are elite. I think you're probably going to expect some injuries like you did with Lamar because of his toughness and because he's so willing. He's a willing runner and an aggressive runner. So you're going to have to do that. One thing about Washington as well, interesting. Again, we talked about earlier, hadn't punted since week 1. No team has ever done it 3 weeks in a row. I've never not punted 3 weeks in a row. Other teams that have done it 2 games in a row, 2021 Bills, 2004 Pittsburgh Steelers, and the 2003 Indianapolis Colts.
Okay.
Should be a fun, entertaining game.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
Be a pinball machine. Okay, next one is the second of the 2 405 games, which is New England 1-2 at San Francisco 1-2. This one's pretty surprising too. New England lost to the Jets 24-3, and San Francisco to the Rams 27-24. New England, of course, is coming off 10 days rest. So,
yeah. Weather 73, clear, 6-mile-an-hour winds northwest. Perfect day to be in San Francisco. My guess on this one, I put a total of 41. I put a guess. I put San Francisco -10.
Yeah, you did better than I did. Total, you said 41, open 41. It's down to 39.5. And the spread, you said San Francisco -10. I said 7.5. It opened 11 and it's down to 10. I don't know how you give a beat up 1-2 team a double-digit point spread, even at home. New England's not good, but they've been frisky enough, with the exception of last week. That just seems like too much. Anyway,
well, I think that New England was frisky the first week because they played the Bengals.
Yes, but they're at least good enough that you wouldn't be like if they were hanging around in the fourth quarter with New England, with San Francisco, with with Deebo Samuel banged up and Ayuk banged up and Kittle out, and I don't even know if what's his name, Trent Brown, the left tackle, is or is it Trent
Williams?
Trent Williams, thank you. Sorry,
he's fine.
Is he fine again? Okay, and then McCaffrey, of course, is not back for a while.
The thing about McCaffrey, interesting, is that bad news for the 49ers fans is that he actually flew to Germany to see a specialist about his Achilles. When you're flying to Germany, that's not to see a specialist. That's something that's lingering and not getting well, and nobody else has answers, and you're trying to figure out answers of what's happening. So that doesn't sound like he's coming back anytime soon. 49ers also got terrible news. Defensive tackle Javon Hargrave suffered a partially torn triceps against the Rams, likely out for the season. Look, I said it when we talked about this during our podcast preseason when we were evaluating all the teams. Shanahan's great on script. First halves are remarkable, and maybe that's the angle that you look at for San Francisco as you start looking at, and I may start myself, start looking at first half bets with them. because they're really successful. But Shanahan's now 1-31, trailing by 5 points or more in the fourth quarter. 1-31, and it's the fifth loss under Shanahan when leading by 10 plus points. That just gets in your head, and you're like going down the field and you're like, oh no, here we go again. And so that kind of becomes a little bit of a culture, something to think about there. I thought it was an interesting game because a lot of people had doubts about Purdy, and they're like, hey, what's he going to do without all his weapons? Kittle's gone, McCaffrey's gone, Debo's gone. What else can you do? And look, he looked phenomenal. I thought he carried the team, and I thought the team let him down. He just didn't have anybody to throw to. He had 6 drops during that game. Special teams also let him down. It's something that Kyle, that's been a knock against Shanahan before in the past, that special teams hasn't been as great under his watch as it should have been. But I thought Purdy was just an absolute machine. He's a high-level processor. He's athletic enough, and he's extremely accurate. So I thought he did a great job. But all he had to throw to was Juwan Jennings, and he kept throwing to him early and often. Juwan Jennings ended up with 11 catches for 175 yards and 3 TDs in the game. Again, thought that he did good, but San Francisco starting to feel like the concerns we had in preseason. They start to feel old, expensive, and brittle. So it's a concern, and I'm concerned about them long term. This game, though, not as much concerned. I think New England is who they are. New England is just terrible running the ball, and now we see them against legitimate defenses like against the Jets, and what they'll see against the 49ers. It'll be a tougher day. I understand why the line's coming down on the total, and I also understand the side of where it is right now. But do you trust the 49ers with a big lead? Shanahan has shown that he can't be trusted with a big lead, so that's concerning. Might be an opportunity for potentially a first-half bet.
Okay. First of the 425 games.
Yeah.
Cleveland 1-2 at Vegas 1-2. Cleveland coming off the loss to the Giants 21-15. Vegas coming off the loss to Carolina 36-22.
Sure. This one obviously in a dome, no weather. My guess on the total was 45, and I put Las Vegas at -3.
Okay, you're way off on the total. Pardon?
Because I really didn't know.
Yeah, that one opened. You said 45, opened 39. It's down to 38. As for the spread, you said Vegas 3. I said Vegas 2.5. It opened pick'em. It's down. It's now Vegas 1.
-1. Okay. Yeah, probably as far off as I've been on both those. Cleveland All-Pro guard Wyatt Teller suffered a grade 2 MCL sprain against the Giants, out multiple weeks. Candidate for the IR, unfortunately for them. Then you have Cleveland, Myles Garrett, foot, MRI. Good news for them. The MRI came back clean on Monday. You just wonder if he'll be we'll have to watch practice reports throughout the week, see if he's going to play. Be a massive loss for them, but a player like that, you need to protect him from himself sometimes. And unfortunately, Las Vegas safety Marcus Epps out for the year with a torn ACL. Antonio Pierce, came out after the game, said some players were making some business decisions, and he's going to make some business decisions because of that. I felt like that really showed his inexperience as a coach, because you just started a controversy that you didn't need to start out in the to have people asking about that. And I'm certainly not saying that it will, but these are the things that can unravel a locker room, like that. So Gardner Minshew was actually benched in that game. After his completion percentage was 83% against the Ravens. And Antonio Pierce said he would not rule out a quarterback change this week. So could be interesting. Cleveland really surprised, I mean, you and I were watching that game. We're loving the New York Giants. Again, another game you had the money line on. Great call on your part. We both had the Giants covering the spread as well. It took Jim Schwartz until late in the game to put Denzel Ward on Malik Neighbors. And then that's when they finally slowed down the Giants offense. And I just was kind of surprised that it took him that long to do it. But nevertheless, interesting game. Not one that I really have a feel on. I'll have to wait, see if I can get some more reports on, but probably not a game I'm going to play.
Yeah, I'm probably in the same boat. This one, though, coming up, I like. This is the second game that caught my eye along with that that New Orleans one. Kansas City 3-0 at LA Chargers 2-1. It's the last 4 o'clock game of 4. Kansas City beat Atlanta 22-17 on Sunday night. Chargers lost to Pittsburgh 20-10.
Yep. Weather and dome, so no weather concerns there. My guess was a total of 43, and I put the Kansas City favored by 7.5.
You did way better than I did. Chargers, you said total. You said 43. It opened 39.5. It's down to 39.
Wow.
And still 39. And then you said Kansas City minus 7.5. I said minus 3. This is 3-0 at 2-1 divisional team. I'm surprised this number is as high as it is, but you definitely got way closer than I did. It opened 6.5. It's up to 8, and I'm seeing 8.5s pop up now. Actually 9s are starting to pop up. So I might as well just tell you right now that I'm just going to keep watching that number and hope I can get 10, maybe 10.5, and then pound it, because I like a division. As long as Herbert's a little bit healthier than he was last week, I know that's a big problem. But if maybe by the end of the week we're not seeing doubtful or questionable, but rather seeing he's a go, that'd be a really good sign for me too.
Certainly been a winning strategy to play underdogs right now. We talked about the first show. But a big reason that is Herbert left in a walking boot. Again, had no business playing in the game, had a high ankle sprain and re-aggravated it. He's considered day-to-day, could possibly be out for this. You're looking at Easton Stick. Not a good matchup against that Steve Spagnuolo defense at all. LA Chargers, both offensive tackles are out this week. Rookie Joe Alt has an MCL sprain, and Rashawn Slater has a strained pec. So both of them are out, against either quarterback, whether it's Herbert or whether it's Easton Stick. They are going to be statues back there because Herbert can't move because his high ankle sprain. Easton Stick doesn't move. So in your two best tackles, the two best tackles combination the entire NFL are going to be out. That's a problem. I can understand that. Joey Bosa also has a hip injury. Don't know if he'll be in the game. And the Chargers, Derwin James got suspended. He's out for one game for repeatedly violation of player safety. So he's out as well. So no way I'm taking the Chargers this game. I'm taking the Chiefs or nothing. I feel like this is just a Chiefs. I feel like this feels like if they're ever going to do it, this is going to be it. Not sure if I see much value in the total, but my gosh, if these injuries hold true, I would continue to look at the Chiefs heavy on that one. Obviously, they are Andy Reid by far the best at situational coaching in the final 2 minutes. And they aren't playing their best ball, and they're still 3-0. So really got to be hard on the league. Interesting enough, Kansas City hasn't scored 30 points in 9 consecutive games. Longest streak in the Mahomes era. Certainly built on defense, pressures. They're tied for third in the league. Quarterbacks hits, tied for third in the league. What do you think they're going to do to the Chargers quarterback this week to be named without their premier tackles? Forced fumbles, tied for second in the league. Chris Jones, be remiss without mentioning him, just a beast. 16 pressures, tied for most in the NFL. It's Steve Spagnuolo's, his defense is very simple. I mean, his goal is to stop the run on first and second down, and unleash blitzes on third down. And that's everybody's goal. But Kansas City can actually do it. They actually executed. Patrick Mahomes, we talked about that. Just some stats on him this year. His passing yards per game are his worst in his career. His passing number of TDs so far, worst in his career. Interceptions, has 4 already. That's worst in his career. Passer rating, 89.9, also worst in his career. And he's playing poorly against bad defenses. One other final note, Kareem Reed elevated to the 53-man roster. He'll be in rotation along with Carson Steele and Samaje Perine. So, again, some really good information there. Guys, we're putting in a ton of work on this. Hope you guys appreciate it. But this is really, really valuable information. Helps us. This is our process, how we work through this information.
Okay. On to the 3 primetime games starting on Sunday night. Not including Thursday, which we've already done. So Friday night, Buffalo 3-0 at Baltimore 1-2. I found this one interesting as well. Buffalo coming up or having beaten Jacksonville 47-10, and then Baltimore having beaten Dallas 28-25.
Weather 21% chance of showers, winds southeast 7 miles an hour. Again, not a big deal there. My guess was a total of 47.5. And I put Baltimore favored by -1.
Okay. You got the better of me on that one as well. That was I'm really surprised that Baltimore's favored, frankly. The total's 47.5. It opened 46. You said 47.5. I'm sorry. It opened 46, still 46.
Okay.
46.5. Sorry now.
Okay.
And as for the spread, you said Baltimore -1. I said Buffalo -1.5. It opened Baltimore -2.5. It's down to 2.
Okay.
I do. My instinct is to like Buffalo, but then again, I watched Buffalo look like a juggernaut last night, so maybe I need to take a little time.
Don't really have any injuries report in this game. There may be some pop up. So again, injury report officially comes out on Wednesday. Please make sure you're checking that as you're evaluating these games like we do. Baltimore. One interesting thing I put down, I was like, man, Justin Tucker was the best kicker for a decade, and he's just not anymore. I mean, look, everybody has their peak, and we come down from that, and it looks like he's certainly coming down from that. Baltimore season high 274 rushing yards against Dallas. Their run game, rushing yards, second in the NFL, rushing yards per rush, first in the NFL, 10-plus yard rushes, tied for first in the NFL. Just as long as Todd Monken can realize that they are a power rushing team, and it's what Ben Johnson should do with Detroit, the same. And they look like Ben Johnson kind of finally started to figure that out against Arizona. Kind of played out exactly like we talked about last week in our preview, and that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, I just didn't bet it. I didn't bet Detroit. I didn't bet the total. I didn't have any inside sources into Detroit and what their game plan was, but I'm glad that he was thinking like I was thinking, and that they did what they should have been doing the whole time. Baltimore is definitely a flawed team. But here's a really important stat that's really important to professional gamblers that make their living doing this. And another stat that you guys should remember, Baltimore leads the league in yards per play. This is a massive stat for those that bet. And so you certainly see that, probably why the line is what it is. It's certainly why I guessed I tilted it the way I tilted it and was close on that one. Some interesting things about Buffalo. Josh Allen last night, first person to throw 4 TDs in the first half since Ben Roethlisberger did it. Baltimore, their offensive line's been dominant. They've given up the fewest sacks of any team this year. Joe Brady has done such a phenomenal job. He's not become so Josh Allen centric. The thing that concerns me about Baltimore keeping pace with Buffalo in this one is that Buffalo runs motion about 60% of the time, and you've got to have elite communication among your linebackers there, and that just doesn't seem like where Baltimore's. We talked about it last week. Is that was a problem with Baltimore? Their linebackers haven't really done as well in space this year, and that I expected during the game. I don't know if we did this on on the preview last week or during the lock-in live on Sunday, but I talked about this then, is that Dallas's linebackers were probably going to have a bigger day. Obviously, that's what Dallas did. It's got the ball to Jake Ferguson. Buffalo has two really good tight ends, and I think that's probably going to be there. And I certainly see an advantage to Buffalo in this game, but I'll certainly need to do some more research.
Okay. The early Monday night game, 7:30 Monday night, Tennessee 0-3 at Miami 1-2. I don't think we're going to need to talk about this one for very long.
Yep.
Tennessee lost to Green Bay 30-14. Miami lost to Seattle 24-3.
Yeah, 83 degrees, 19% chance of thunderstorms, winds 5 miles an hour from the northeast. I put my total at 41. I put a guess at -3. Again, these were Miami -3, so I just completely guessed on all this. So I'm not sure if anything's correct on this.
Well, that's my method too. You said 41 on the total. It opened 37.5. It's down to 37. It's the low total for the week.
Yep.
You said -3 for Miami. I said -2.5. It opened -1. It's down to Pick'em. Yes, Pick'em across the board.
Okay. Injuries to us still remains on IR for another 3 weeks. Skylar Thompson's ribs considered day-to-day. Mike McDaniels came out and said that Tyler Huntley could be the starting quarterback on Monday. Said it today. Tennessee, Awuzie, his groin could be possibly a cornerback for Tennessee, could be headed to IR. Again, Tennessee, the rumor was and verified that Tennessee gave away Malik Willis for a song because they said that we like Will Levis better. And they quietly said it was known in circles that Malik Willis was too dumb to learn the playbook. Well, my question is, who looks dumb now? I mean, you gave away Malik Willis and you chose Will Levis over him, and he just dominated Will Levis. It was, but I think you're going to expect a quarterback change pretty soon for Tennessee. Looks like Mason Rudolph's the backup, so I got to believe that that's going to happen. So anyway, that's it for me. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, dogs were barking.
Yep.
Last game is the 8:15 on Monday night. Seattle 3-0 at Detroit 2-1. Seattle coming off the win over Miami 24-3. Detroit coming off a win over Arizona 20-13.
Yeah. Weather Dome. My guess total of 43, and I'm gonna put Detroit at 4.5.
Okay, you said 43 for the total. It opened 47. It's down to 40. Yeah, back up to 47. As for the spread, you said Detroit -4.5. I said -3. It opened 4.5. It's down to 3.5.
Okay. Injuries. Detroit's got a lot. Sam Laporta has low ankle sprain. It's important. Low ankle sprain is easier to come back to day to day. Not so good news. Pass rusher Marcus Davenport suffered season-ending injury to his elbow against the Cardinals. Center Frank Ragnow suffered a partially torn pectoral, and he still wants to play because he's an animal. He's probably the most important center in football because of the complex and the intricacies of their running game, and he sets the protection on those and keeps the offensive line in gear. So it'd be a massive loss if he's out. Detroit also lost their best linebacker, Derek Brown, because of a knee. He's placed on IR. And then strong safety Brian Branch is out in concussion protocol. So really tough deal. I'm glad to see Detroit running the ball like they have. But we'll see how effective they can be without Frank Ragnow, if that's the case. Seattle, they currently have the highest graded defense, but they haven't played anyone yet, right? Geno, early thoughts about him. Seattle needs to draft a quarterback. He didn't really impress me. Seems like he's just locking on to a receiver. and just kind of throwing it there. So not really going through a lot of progressions, but that's all I have, man. What about you? Matt, anything for you, man?
I got nothing.
Matt, always with the deep insight. Thank you very much. I got nothing.
I like Baltimore on Sunday night.
Interesting. We'll see. Should be a well of a game. Really interesting to see. You know, Baltimore's rushing stats obviously inflated after playing the pitiful Cowboys. Let's see about that. Smooth Andy, any parting thoughts?
No, I think I covered it.
You're hungry.
Yeah, I am hungry. Time to go eat.
It is. It's late. Guys, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show like I do, please continue to help support us. Please like and subscribe on the YouTube at Uncle Phil's Locks. Please follow Smooth Andy. He's works his ass off on this. And please follow me on, if you don't already, please do on X and on Instagram and on TikTok. And again, like and subscribe on YouTube. Guys, we're so grateful to do this. Thank you so much for the audience for tuning in. We'll see you next week, or we'll see you this Saturday for college football's Lock and Live. And as always, guys, let's roll.
Soundstripe.